In today's video, we will be taking a closer look at the items Infinity Edge and Jewled Gauntlet. Both of them received a small but noteworthy change in set 10. If you put any of these items on a unit and the holder can already critically strike, then they will grant plus 10% critical strike damage. This works great in conjunction with traits like Executioner or augments like Jewled Lotus, since they provide your units with spell crit. You don't have to feel bad about putting a Jewled Gauntlet on your Karthus. However, this new interaction does pose a few interesting questions. What happens if you start stacking Infinity Edge or Jewled Gauntlet on a single unit? Could the items proc off each other? How do they interact with the Executioner trait? And is it possible for them to proc more than once? Let's go over everything one by one. We start with a very simple example. In case you didn't know, you can actually stack Infinity Edge and Jewled Gauntlet since they are not considered unique items. Here we have a Twitch with no traits active that is currently carrying two of them. Combined, they give 70% crit chance, putting him at 95%. Something worth noting here is that his crit damage is still at 140%. Does this mean that the items can't proc off each other? To answer this, we just have to start the next combat, and you can see how his critical strike damage jumps up by 10%. This alone gives us a few answers already. The critical damage increase only happens at combat start and not in the planning phase. And it looks like stacking two Infinity Edges will result in one of them granting spell crit and the other one increasing the critical damage. If we add a Jewled Gauntlet, then the unit will start off with 155% crit damage. This is because the three items combined grant 130% crit chance, and everything above 100 is divided by 2 and converted to crit damage. So 30 divided by 2 results in plus 15 crit damage. After combat starts, we can see that these three items will now add an additional plus 20 crit damage. So effectively the same as the previous example. One item is granting spell crit, the other two will profit from it. So far we only tested the items themselves, but what if we add a trait like Executioner or an augment like Jewled Lotus? This example is from patch 13.24, so after adding Twitch, this Vex will gain an additional 5% critical strike damage, putting her at 160%. After combat starts, it jumps up to 190%, so this means we had a 30% increase and not a 20% increase as before. All three items will profit from Executioner and increase the damage. In the last example, let's see if adding Jewled Lotus will make any difference. Just as a small heads up, this clip is from patch 13.23, which means that here the Executioner trait is adding more crit damage than before. First, we look at Caitlyn, who is sitting at 160% crit damage. The uneven number is caused by Jewled Lotus, which is granting some crit chance that is being converted. The fight starts and the crit damage jumps up by 30% again. So we get the same result as with Executioner. For our last test, we repeat the setup, but this time the items go on a Vex with the Executioner trait active. She starts with 178 and jumps to 208 when the combat starts. Even though we have Jewled Lotus and Executioner active, it remains only a 30% increase. So to summarize, if you want, you can stack Infinity Edge and Jewled Lotus on a single unit. Each item will provide your carry with a 10% critical damage increase if you have spell crit from other sources already. If you like these types of videos, why not subscribe and support this channel? I hope you learned something and see you next time. GG!